Content note: this episode involves an unsolved long-term missing persons case involving 3 women. Please listen with care and be respectful in any discussion or comments. You don't expect a house to feel wrong in the middle of the day. It's a sunny June afternoon, the kind that always felt lazy and harmless when you were a teenager. The kind of day for water parks and graduation parties, for flip-flops on hot pavement and the smell of sunscreen and grass. From the street, the little one-story house on East Delmar looks perfectly ordinary. There's a car in the driveway. Another in the carport. The front door is closed. The yard is quiet except for a small dog somewhere inside, barking like it's tired of being alone. You walk up the front steps and knock. No answer. You knock again and call out their names. Nothing. You try the knob, and the door gives a little under your hand. It's unlocked. Inside, the air feels heavy, like the house hasn't been opened up yet for the day. The TV in the bedroom is on, but it's just snow and static. There's an unfinished drink by the bed. Makeup wipes tossed aside. Jewelry laid out like it was taken off at the end of a long night and never put away. 3 purses sit together on the floor. Keys. Cash. Cigarettes. Cars still outside. Dog still here. But the 3 women who should be in this house are nowhere. You're listening to Fear Files, Real Cases. Dark Details. Tonight, we're in Springfield, Missouri, walking into one of the most infamous unsolved disappearances in American true crime history. It's known as the case of the Springfield 3, 47-year-old single mom and hairdresser Sherrill Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Suzanne Suzie Streeter, and Suzie's 18-year-old best friend, Stacy McCall. 3 women. 1 small house. No obvious crime scene. And then they were just gone. Graduation night. June 6, 1992, was supposed to be one of the biggest nights of Stacy and Suzie's lives. They had just graduated from Kickapoo High School in Springfield. There were caps and gowns, family photos, and the nervous buzz of everyone asking, "So what's next?" Sherrill sat in the stands and watched her daughter cross the stage, proud and probably exhausted, like every other parent in that arena. After the ceremony, the night unfolded the way so many graduation nights do. There were plans for sober lock-ins at the school, but there were also house parties, neighbors' gatherings, and last chances to hang out with classmates before everyone drifted off to college, jobs, and whatever came next. Suzie and Stacy hopped between get-togethers. They posed for pictures, laughed with friends, talked about heading to a nearby water park the next day. There was a constant rearranging of plans: stay here, no, go there, okay, we'll meet you in the morning. Normal teenage chaos. At one point, the plan was for the girls to crash at a friend's house and leave from there in the morning. But as the night went on and the parties got crowded, noisy, and hot, they changed their minds. Sometime around 2 a.m., Suzie and Stacy told their friends they were going back to Suzie's place instead, to Sherrill's little home at 1717 East Delmar. "Follow me to my house," Suzie reportedly said. "Okay, I will," Stacy answered. It's believed the 2 girls did just that. Because the next day, their cars would be sitting outside that house on Delmar, parked like they had made it home safely. Whatever happened to them happened after that. The house on East Delmar. By late morning on June 7th, people were expecting to see the girls again. Stacy's friend Janelle woke up ready for the water park day they'd been talking about. When the girls didn't show up on time, she figured they overslept. It was graduation weekend. They'd been running around all night. Maybe they were just tired. But calls to the house on Delmar went unanswered. Finally, Janelle and her boyfriend drove over to check. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the family dog, a little Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon, was anxious and barking. There was no sign of the 3 women. The scene inside the house felt like someone had just stepped out for a minute and never come back. All 3 women's purses were there, grouped together. Cash, including a recent deposit from Sherrill's work at the salon, was still inside. Their car keys, driver's licenses, and cigarettes were left behind. The clothes Stacy had worn the night before were neatly folded. The TV in the bedroom was on, showing static, like someone had fallen asleep watching something and never turned it off. Outside, the glass globe over the front porch light was shattered. The bulb itself was still intact. It was odd, but in the moment, it looked like one of those small annoyances you just deal with. Someone accidentally broke the cover, swept it away, and moved on. That's exactly what happened. Trying to be helpful, Janelle's boyfriend swept up the broken glass so no one would cut their feet. It was a reasonable thing to do. And a tiny act that may have erased one of the only visible signs that something had gone wrong. And then there were the phone calls. While friends were in the house, the phone rang more than once. The caller was a man, and the calls were described as strange and obscene, full of sexual innuendo. The person on the other end wouldn't identify himself. The calls rattled everyone there, but they were brushed off at the time as sick prank calls. Later, police would say they didn't think those obscene calls were connected to what happened. But in the moment, they were just one more unsettling detail in a house that didn't feel right. The missing women. When Stacy still wasn't home by that afternoon, her mother, Janice, got worried in a way that only a parent recognizes. Stacy was responsible. She had work scheduled at a local gymnastics center and plans she usually kept. Suzie had a job at a movie theater. Sherrill was a reliable cosmetologist with clients who trusted her. Vanishing without a word just wasn't like them. Janice drove over to the house on Delmar herself. She opened the door, called out, and got the same silence everyone else had gotten. Just cinnamon, barking. Just the purses on the floor. Just the feeling that something was wrong. She called police from the home phone and reported all 3 women missing. While checking the answering machine, because this was the early 90s, and voicemail lived in a little box with a tiny tape inside, Janice listened to at least one message that she later described as strange. Police said they were very interested in that message and believed it might have contained a clue. But by the time they were involved, it was gone. The message was inadvertently erased, just by being played, the way many answering machines worked back then. Whatever was said on that tape has never been recovered. In the hours before investigators fully took over, as word spread that the women were missing, more people came to the house: friends, family, neighbors. They went inside, looked around, tried to make sense of things, answered the phone, did small chores, cleaned up. Later, police would estimate that 10 to 20 people may have gone in and out of that home before the scene was locked down. Ashtrays were emptied. Coffee cups were washed. Evidence, if it ever existed in obvious form, was likely moved, wiped, or thrown away by people who were just trying to help. What was left behind was a spotless crime scene where the most important thing missing was invisible: 3 human beings. The search. Once law enforcement realized that this wasn't a simple miscommunication or runaway situation, the search for the Springfield 3 ramped up fast. Detectives interviewed friends, ex-boyfriends, co-workers, and neighbors. They checked schedules and alibis. They tried to piece together the last 24 hours before the 3 women vanished. Stacy had been excited about graduation and about the water park trip planned for the next day. She'd even gotten a new puppy as a graduation gift. Suzie had been talking about her new waterbed in the future. Sherrill had left money from the salon in her purse, money she presumably planned to deposit or use. She had appointments scheduled in the coming days. This wasn't a woman planning to disappear. None of the 3 had taken extra clothes. None had grabbed their wallets. No one had seen any of them leaving in a panic. There were no signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, no blood. If there had been a confrontation inside the house, it left almost no physical trace. Flyers with their faces went up around Springfield. The story spread to regional and then national media. Tips began pouring in, thousands over the years. People reported seeing the women at convenience stores, rest stops, even other states. None of those leads ever panned out in a way investigators could confirm. The case eventually made it onto shows like America's Most Wanted, 48 Hours, and disappeared. Each time, new viewers learned the story, and new tips came in. Each time, none of them broke it open. At one point, someone even called the America's Most Wanted tip line during a broadcast about the case and reportedly gave information that sounded promising. Only for the call to drop during the transfer to local law enforcement. The caller never contacted them again. Police have said they believe that person had prime knowledge of the abductions. Imagine being those families, knowing that someone out there might have called once with the truth, and then vanished back into the noise. Theories and suspects. With almost no physical evidence and 3 people gone instead of 1, theories around what happened to the Springfield 3 multiply quickly. Over the years, a few names and ideas have come up again and again. One early angle involved a young man connected to Suzie through a disturbing crime, a mausoleum break-in where he and others had stolen gold fillings from a skull. Suzie had given a statement about it, and there was speculation that her disappearance might be connected to that case, that someone wanted to silence her as a witness. He and his friends were reportedly in the area that night. Police looked into them, but nothing has ever been publicly confirmed that ties them definitively to the disappearances. Another theory points toward known violent offenders who were in or around Missouri during that time, suspected serial killers who traveled through the region, men with long histories of abduction and murder whose timelines placed them near Springfield. In some retellings, these theories get detailed and dramatic, but when you strip away the speculation, what's left is this: law enforcement has never named a single suspect they believe is definitively responsible. Then there's Robert Craig Cox. Cox, a convicted kidnapper and robber with ties to other violent crimes, lived in Springfield around the time the women went missing. In the mid-1990s, while in prison in Texas, he began telling journalists that he knew what happened to the Springfield Three, that they had been murdered, and that their bodies would never be found. He hinted, he teased, but he never gave details that actually solved anything. Investigators have expressed doubts about his credibility, and many believe he may have been seeking attention more than telling the truth. There was also a tip claiming the women had been buried in the concrete foundation of a local hospital parking garage. In the mid-2000s, ground-penetrating radar scans reportedly showed anomalies in one corner, shapes roughly the size of graves. But the parking structure was built more than a year after the disappearances, and police said the person who suggested the location had no solid reasoning to back it up. Digging into the foundation would be expensive and disruptive, and with no strong evidence to justify it, investigators chose not to tear it up. Some believe the women were taken by someone they knew, lured out of the house or confronted after opening the door late at night. Others believe a stranger, or strangers, saw two teenage girls arrive home in the early hours of the morning and targeted them, catching all three women off guard before anyone had time to react. 3 victims, no witnesses, and no crime scene that tells a clear story. That's why this case still haunts people decades later. The weight of absence. In 1997, 5 years after the disappearance, Sherrill and Suzie were declared legally dead. It was a legal step, not a confession that the case was solved. Investigators still list the 3 women as missing. Their bodies have never been found. For their families, the missing pieces go beyond what happened that night. They've missed birthdays, holidays, graduations that never came, and anniversaries of a date no one wants to remember but can't escape. June 7, 1992. Every June, local news updates the story. Every so often, a new documentary or podcast revisits it, hoping for a fresh angle, a forgotten detail, a viewer who suddenly realizes they know something that matters. The FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, still lists the Springfield Three. Their faces are on official posters and cold case pages, alongside thousands of other missing people across the country. In Springfield, there's a bench in a victims' memorial garden dedicated to them, to Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy. A place where people can sit, think, and remember 3 women who walked into a small house after a big night and somehow never came back out. Living with unanswered questions. When you look at this case from the outside, it's easy to focus on the mystery: 3 women, no scene, no answers. It almost feels like a riddle. But to the people who loved them, it's not a puzzle. It's an open wound. The smallest details become heavy to carry. The way Stacy's clothes were folded. The way Suzie's book, "Oh, the Places You'll Go," sat on the headboard, a graduation gift that suddenly reads very differently once you know how the story goes. The way Sherrill's cigarettes and cash were left untouched, like she was planning on tomorrow. The little dog who couldn't explain what she saw. The phone message no one can replay. It's also a reminder of how fragile a crime scene can be, especially when no one realizes something terrible has happened until hours or even days later. People coming and going, trying to be helpful, trying to make the place feel normal, all of that can blur or erase the truth. And somewhere out there, if this was a crime committed by another human being, is someone who has lived with that secret for more than 30 years. If you know something. Cases like this don't usually explode open from one dramatic clue decades later. More often, they shift slowly. Someone finally decides to tell the truth, or a tiny detail in an old report lines up with a new name, a new pattern, a new piece of technology. The Springfield Police Department and the FBI have kept this case open for more than 3 decades. They still take tips. They still review new information. They still talk publicly about the women as real people, not just faces on a poster. If you have any credible information about the disappearance of Sherrill Levitt, Suzanne Suzie Streeter, or Stacy McCall, something you saw, something you heard, something that never sat right with you, contact Springfield Police, the FBI's VICAP, or your local law enforcement agency. Don't try to investigate on your own. Bring what you know to the people who can actually act on it. Because for the families left behind, even one true answer is better than a lifetime of guesses. Closing. So the next time you drive past a small, ordinary house, the kind with a single-story roofline, a cracked driveway, and a porch light that flickers at dusk, remember this. On some streets, the scariest stories don't come from the abandoned places. They come from the homes where everything looks normal. The ones where the dog is still inside. The keys are still on the counter. The TV is still humming. And the people who should be there are simply gone. This has been Fear Files, Real Cases, Dark Details.